Okay, the next problem that we're going to solve is what's called sex-linked disorders. So a sex-linked disorder is any genetic gene or allele that is defective that is carried on the X chromosome, the sex chromosome that's the X and not the Y. So the way that we show this is, for instance, if we have a parent, a human parent, who is a female, the mom, we would show her as female with her two X chromosomes. And she would mate with a male, the dad, which has these two sex chromosomes, which is the X and the Y. Now, it's important to put the XX and the XY on the Punnett square because it's the X chromosome that carries the gene. And this breaks one of Mendel's rules because females will have two copies of the gene, whereas the male will only have one copy because the gene on the X is not found on the Y because the Y is a smaller and completely different chromosome. So let's say that the mother is a carrier for color blindness. Now, we're going to represent capital N as normal vision. You can see your red and green colors just fine. And we're going to represent little n, which is recessive, is the trait for a child to be born colorblind, red-green colorblind. So if the mother is a carrier, that means she has one normal allele on this X and one defective recessive allele on her other X. So she's a carrier of color blindness because she carries the defect, but yet she still sees normally because she has her other X, which has the normal allele. Now the father, let's say that the father has normal vision. If he has normal vision, then that means on his X is the normal gene, which we would say is capital N. But we will not put any little superscript or allele description on the Y because the Y doesn't actually have the gene. So then we just simply fill in our Punnett square. We have X big N, X big N. We have X big N, X little n. We have X big N, Y. And we have X little n, Y. Now, what this allows us to do by looking at the children is you can see if this is a child that's XX, this is a daughter. This child XX is a daughter. This child, which is XY, will be a son. And this child, which is XY, will be a son. And then we just have to look at the letters on the sex chromosomes to know what the child will have inherited. So this female has two big N's, which means she is completely normal in vision. This female has one big N, one little n, so she will have normal vision, but she is a carrier of the disease or the disorder. Now this male has one big N, and that's it, which means because he has the good big N on his X chromosome, he will have normal vision. But this male has only a little n on his one X, which means he will be colorblind. Now, male babies cannot be carriers because they don't have two allele options. They either are normal or they express the disorder. Okay, so here's how these questions can get tricky. I could ask, based on this Punnett square, I could ask, what's the % chance of a child being born with normal vision? Now, if I say child, that means you have to look at all four squares regardless of the sex of the child. And so you'd say this one's normal, this one's normal, this one's normal, and this one's colorblind. So we'd say 75% of the children born to this couple would be normal vision. But I could also ask the question, what's the chance that their son, if they have a son, what's the chance that that son would be colorblind? And as soon as I am specific to a sex of the baby, you have to only look at the squares that show that sex, which would be for a son, these two boxes. So now if you just look at these two boxes, what's the % chance the son will be born with color blindness? And it's only 1 out of 2, or 50% of the boys will be colorblind. Now if I ask the opposite question. I say, what's the chance, percent chance, of a daughter being born as a carrier? If I asked that question, as soon as I said daughter, I would only look at the daughter offspring, and then I'd say, out of those daughters, what's the chance that the daughter would be a carrier? And that would only be this box, which would be 1 out of 2, or 50%. Okay, I hope that makes sense.